First, I'm Amber Hurley. I'm one of the academic coaches here at Fox Elementary, and we wanted to make sure that we gave the parents the opportunity to get some more information about our big Georgia Milestones assessment that's coming up soon. So the Georgia Milestones assessment is a comprehensive, coherent, consolidated program. This assessment is meant to complement the assessments and the work that the students have been doing in the classroom all year long. It's aligned to our Georgia Standards of Excellence. Those are the topics and the skills that the teachers have been teaching to the children every day. And this assessment provides everyone, the parents, the students, the teachers, our district level representatives, and our state level representatives with information about how well our students are progressing and how prepared they are for the next level, whether that's the next grade level, the next school, and if they're in high school, whether they're ready to progress on to college or career. This year, since the Georgia Milestones has been in action, something that's different from this assessment than the CRCT that we used to take in the past is that the ELA assessment is a combination of reading, language arts, and writing. So on their ELA assessment, they will do all three of those things, and it's spread across all of the content areas. So the ultimate goal of the Georgia Milestones assessment is just to make sure that the students have received a high quality education this year while they've been at school, and to make sure that what they have learned in class is aligned to those standards that we are mandated by the state to teach the students. If that has happened, we expect to make all of our academic goals that we've set for the year. So who will take the Georgia Milestones? Georgia Milestones starts in 3rd grade and it actually goes through high school. But here at Fox, our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders will take the assessment. This year there has been a change. Our 3rd and 4th graders will take our ELA and our mathematics assessment. And the ELA will have that reading, writing, and language arts. 5th grade will take ELA, which is the reading, writing, and language arts, the math, the science, and the social studies. Assessment testing dates are set for our month of April. It's spread out over several days during that month. We have the ELA test that first week. The second week, the students will take the math and the science, and then the final week, they'll take the social studies. And there are several different ways that the students have the opportunity to take the assessment. Our 3rd graders are going to still take their assessment on paper and pencil, so it will be standard testing style where they have a test booklet and they bubble in on a Scantron as well as doing some writing. Our 4th and 5th graders, they will do all of their testing online. So it will be the same method, but they just have to type it out on the computer. The types of items that the students will see on the Georgia Milestones is a little different from what they had back when we did CRCT. Back when there was CRCT, it was normally all multiple choice. This year we will still have multiple choice. They call that the selected response, and that's going to be in all of our content areas. Georgia Milestones also gives students an opportunity to do some extended and more complex items like the constructed response, so that might be where they have to write a sentence or two. And then extended response, where they have to do the full-on writing, where they write a few paragraphs or like an essay. And then of course, for our students that are testing online, there are technology-enhanced questions. So we'll take a few minutes and look at the different types of those on the ELA and the math. On the math test, the selected response is just your normal run-of-the-mill multiple choice. So if they were in the textbook, if they were doing it paper pencil, they would just bubble it in on the Scantron on the computer, they just click on it. One new thing about the math test this year is that not only will they have selected response where there's one correct answer, some of the questions might say choose all of the possible correct answers. So sometimes they look for one, sometimes they look for more than one. The constructed response is usually just a little bit longer. It's usually word problem form, and it has some type of visual with it, so the students will have to read as well as have to read as well as do some type of composition. So this one shows an example of what they might have to do. They'll have to look at a picture, give two numbers, and then do a comparison. Another type of constructed response they might see on the math is they have to look at the question and then they have to write a short response based on their explaining why or why not the situation is true. The technology enhanced questions, which are new this year, they give them problems like this, but instead of the picture already being filled in, they might have to do some adjustments to the picture to make it match the situation of the question. For example, they'll have to color in 5/8 and 3/8 and then show the comparison. On the English language arts test, there are 4 different types of questions they would see on this one as well. The first one, those are your selected response. These are worth 1 point apiece. So these are your run-of-the-mill multiple choice questions. And normally it is a comprehension question where they've read a passage or they've read something and then they have to answer the question based on what they've read. Their 2-point questions are their constructed response. It's more of the same, but it goes just a little bit more in depth. So for this one, they have a situation and then they have to write a short response to it. The same for their extended constructed response. Their writing is going to be a little bit lengthier. And then their extended writing response, this one is a 7-point question. So with this one, and this is something that the students have been practicing in class all year, this is a type of question where they will read 2 full passages, and then based on the information in the passage, they have to compare and contrast what they've read. So they're going to read 2 stories, and then they're given pieces of paper where they can compose out a longer essay. So once the students have taken the assessment, the scores will come back, and there are 4 different levels of performance that the students can fall into. You have your beginning learner, your developing learner, your proficient learner, and your distinguished learner. So based on our student achievement goals, we have a goal set that we want all of our students to be scoring at proficient or distinguished. Okay, so this is talking about Lexile measures and the Georgia Milestone. The Lexile measure for students are also going to be on the score reports. Your Lexile measure just talks about how it's basically your students' reading level. And the Lexile is a little different from, does everybody remember when we used to do like your STAR test or your accelerated reader test and they had a basic reading level? Lexile is a little more complex than that, but it talks about how easy or difficult a piece of writing is to read compared to the student's writing ability. So this measure is going to be one of the indicators that we're using this year to determine the promotion and retention for 3rd and 5th grade students. So for the next couple of slides, I'm going to have Dr. Scarborough come up and talk about this more in detail.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. We were able to receive just a little bit of clarification at the last principals meeting, which was last week. And the first 2 years of the GMAS, they did not enforce the retention policy because they were working on making sure the test was reliable and valid through the state. So the state has said this year they will enforce the retention policy. So 3rd graders have to score at least a Lexile of 650 or above in reading, or they will be retained. 4th graders kind of get an exemption on that piece, won't be retained by the test. 5th graders have to have an 850 Lexile or above in reading and score a developing or above in math. So those are the 2 grade levels that are most affected by this. And so what happens next, so your child takes the test in, beginning of April, they send for the scores and we get the scores back. And if your child is in either 3rd or 5th grade and does not meet that expectation, They will have one additional time to take the test right before school gets out. I'm just going to be very honest, the timeline hasn't been given to us, but we don't turn the scores in until April 17th. We get out of school May 26th. So it is highly likely that the last 2 weeks of school they will be retaking the test. If they were in third grade, you heard they were going to take the test on paper pencil. Well, if they have to do the retake, it'll have to be online so they get the scores back very quickly to us so that we'll know how students do. After that, if your student still has not passed the test, then a retention committee meets, which will be me, the guidance counselor, the classroom teacher, and we will look at the criteria that the district has set forth and decide, even though they didn't quite make a 650, should they be promoted? If your child's not passing reading, it's highly likely they will not be promoted even based on that. If they're, getting C's and B's in reading, maybe they could be passed on. So it's going to be dependent on what the district sets forth. And Mr. Baker, my boss, was in today and he said that should be forthcoming real soon, what our committee is going to look at, throughout the district. The district is also going to provide a summer school. If your child didn't pass either of the sections in reading and math in 3rd and 5th grade, they will have to attend summer school or they will not get promoted. They can't come for 2 days or 1 week. They're going to have to attend the entire session or they cannot be promoted. Because here's the deal. They've got to be able to read on grade level because they're going to struggle for the rest of their time if they don't. And it's easier to fix it the sooner we get a hold of it. So, it's not easy for a 10th grader to, fix it whenever they're reading on a 3rd grade level. It's easier for us to help a 3rd grader who's reading on a 1st or 2nd grade level than whenever they get older. So that's kind of the idea behind that. We want to catch it as soon as possible and work on that. Your kids have been doing a lot of work in Achieve 3000, the reading program that we supplement our daily instruction with. And it tells them what lifestyle they're on. All of your kids should know what their lifestyle is right now. Thankfully, what they're doing in Achieve 3000 is a little harder than what the test is going to ask them, because everything they read in Achieve 3000 is nonfiction. It's about science or social studies or technology or something like that. And on Georgia Milestones, they'll also read some fiction kind of stories, the fun stories. And those are a little easier. So sometimes in the past, we've noticed if they have a lifestyle of 500 on Achieve 3000, sometimes their GMAS lifestyle is a little bit higher because they're reading some text that's not as complex and not as hard for them. But the real big deal is they've got to take this seriously. I really feel confident that the teachers have worked very hard. We're in the classrooms all the time, seeing the work that they're doing. But if they don't take it seriously, then they're going to have a real likelihood of not passing. So these next few weeks are seriously intensive work on this to make sure that they're ready and prepared and know everything they need to know. So part of your job as mom and dad and grandma, grandpa, and aunts and uncles is you've got to make sure that they're taking it seriously, that they're not fooling around here these next few weeks especially, because they're going to miss a lot of work if they do. And then the consequence is going to be they may have to be held back. And we want everybody who's ready to move forward, and it's part of their job to really work hard toward that. As soon as we know some more information, we'll send it out. This will go out, along with some of our handouts, like what the testing dates are and this kind of information. Because like I said, they were just confirmed that the state has decided that across the state they will do this. So that's kind of where we are. Do not fret right now. If your child is well below the grade level that they're supposed to be, don't go home and fuss. Just get them here on time every day and keep them here all day, because we're going to keep doing our part. But don't go home and get mad at them, because some of them had to catch up a lot, and we want to make sure we're all doing our part. The best thing you can do every night is read with them and practice those math facts, those multiplication facts, because even though that's not all that's on the test, it will make the parts they have to do easier for them if they know those math facts. So those are some things you can do right now to help them be prepared. I know we're going to talk about this in a second, but I'm going to get my plug in. On the testing days, do not be late. We are fortunate that we're going to be able to test in a little bit of a different configuration, and it's going to give your child some benefits that they won't be sitting for 170 minutes taking the test. They will take it in 2 days in shorter sessions, but they've got to be here on time because I can't wait until 9 o'clock to start the first testing session and get everybody done. I'm going to have to start at 8:30, no later than 8:30. That means fed, bathroom attendants, everything seated, starting. So we open at 7 for breakfast. There's no excuse for being late. Okay? No excuse for being late. We open at 7. That gives you more than enough time to get them here and get them fed and get everybody ready. Huh? Yeah, we're that early. I'm here every morning, so bring them on. We love our morning breakfast crew. Here's the thing. Every day there's going to be a reward. There's going to be rewards, boys and girls. If you're here on time, if you do your best, which means like you use the scratch paper in math and all those kind of things. Well, the first one is if you're here and if you're on time and if you do your best. That afternoon or first thing the next morning, if you're not the first session, you will get a reward. We did some of those last year. We had like Lego activities. We had a movie and popcorn. Something kind of fun but kind of quiet and exciting. But that's your job, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa. Get them to bed early so that they get a good night's sleep. We will feed them here if you get them here on time and make sure they're on time. So those are some of the big things we need your help with that we can't do, but you can do that for us. Okay? And if you have any specific questions, we can take those at the end, or if you think of something later, just check in at the office and see if I'm, available and we can talk about it, okay?
Okay, and thank you for that. And speaking of, if you have questions or anything, at the end you are going to receive a form on your way out the door, and there are lines there if you would like to write it down. But of course, if you want to talk to somebody, we'll be here as well. So, based on everything that we've talked about, what can you do to help your child at home? Dr. Scarborough kind of covered a lot of this already, so I'll go through it quickly. Just encourage your child to do well at school and at home. Make sure they're bringing home something to read, look over their homework, and like she said, reading something and practicing those basic math facts, you'll never go wrong. Also, explain the purpose of the test. We know that testing can be a stressful event for students. It's stressful for us too. And we want them to know that, it's something that we have to do, but at the same time, don't let it stress you out to the point where it makes you sick. Because we're preparing them at school, you're talking to them at home, and we know that they're going to do their best. Also, remind your student that sometimes, they are going to see something on the test that might be a little difficult to them. One thing that we spend a lot of time talking to the students about this year is just persevering and pushing through. That, if you get to something that's a little hard, just do your best. Don't let it, hold you back or stop you, because they will. It's going to be a lot, but they're prepared for it, and they can do it if they just, keep their minds to it. Also, make sure that they get to bed on time and that they get something good to eat. So that way they're not worried about, nodding off in class, because they are going to be sitting for a while and it is going to be quiet, and we don't want their tummies rumbling either. Also, be to school on time. And then, having a conversation with them about what they've done during testing that day, because I'm sure they'll have a lot to tell you. And then at the end of the day, just make sure that they keep reading, and writing. If they do that and they come to school and they try their best, we'll handle the rest. So, in conclusion, before we get to our grand finale, we do just want to say thank you for your support with us this year. We have so enjoyed working with all of them, coming in, seeing them with the smiling faces in the morning. And just know that if you have any questions or concerns, that, we're here to serve you too. So don't hesitate to reach out to one of us or your teachers, your students' teachers. We will gladly talk to you about things. All right, so kids, y'all ready?
Part 1, let's go.